Hello all. Today we're going to go over a few very important steps when it comes to generators and maintaining them during the winter time. We're going to go over coolant system, oil system, fuel systems, additives, block heaters, battery chargers, all those important things that keep your generator maintained and ready when you really need it during the cold temperatures. The first thing I really wanted to go over, which I think is the most important thing, is the block heater. Most every generator have a block heater. Now, block heaters come in different shapes and forms. We're using a portable rental style generator, which a lot of these portable rental style generators will have easy access on the outside to plug in your battery charger and block heater. These are just simple female 120 plugs that will plug right into here and will keep your engine warm up to a nominal temperature. Now we're going to dive a little deeper on what it means to keep your engine block warm. But going back to what we discussed, battery charger would always keep your battery charged, would always keep it at about 12.5 or above volts. And your block heater would always keep your engine coolant and the engine fluids as well as the block at nominal temperature to start, regardless of what the temperature is. So as I mentioned on the block heater, in this generator, the block heater is located right here in the center of the block. Its main purpose is to keep the liquid inside of the engine at nominal operating temperature. Typically, and hopefully, you would have a mixture of 50-50 glycol and water in your coolant to prevent the engine from freezing. The water inside of the engine from freezing, I should say. Now, one indication that it had happened in the past that you should always be aware of is something that we call freeze plugs. On each side of the engine, and it depends on the size of the engine, you will have a few freeze plugs on the left side and the right side of the engine. The freeze plug job is solely to determine if the engine at one point had frozen, expanded, and the freeze plugs are no longer fitting in the original position that they were putting from manufacture. Freeze plugs on the floor or freeze plugs disappearing is always something you should watch out for and be careful of. Now, block heaters come in a few different shapes and sizes, as I mentioned. Another very common shape and type of a block heater would be this block heater. Typically, you would see this block heater sitting here on a side, mounted somewhere near the block, and you would have a loose wire coming outside where you can plug it direct or plug it into an extension cord to make sure that your engine stays warm and your block heater stays active. Now, the other thing I wanted to discuss is the battery charger. Battery charger is very simple. Just like on cars, on boats, battery charger's sole purpose is to make sure that a battery stays at the right voltage and is ready to perform when we need it. Something very important to do during the wintertime is always make sure that your battery disconnect switch is turned into the off position. And if you do not have a battery disconnect off position, I would highly suggest just disconnecting the battery completely when you're not using the generator and keeping it disconnected. If you're planning on using the generator, prior to it, a few days before, a day before, whenever you can, make sure that you have proper voltage on your battery. Make sure your battery charger is connected. Make sure your batteries are connected, so then you're ready to operate the generator whenever you need it. So let's talk coolants. I'm going to go over the very basics of coolants and what you need for your generators here today. I'm using and showing you today a Napa brand green 50-50 pre-diluted antifreeze coolant. This will work for most generators in most places in the country. Now, I'm not recommending you to go with this specific brand, with this specific color. A lot of people have their own preferences, and I'm totally okay with that. I have my own preferences when it comes to coolant and oil as well. So whatever works for you, use it. Just make sure that you use coolant. Coolant is very important. It'll help prevent a lot of issues. It'll keep the engine from freezing. It'll keep your cooling system from freezing, all the pipes from freezing. And it does a very important job in the generator as a whole. Now, how do we test the coolant that we already have in our engine? Very simple. You can pick up one of these test kits at any of your auto parts stores. And what it does is it shows us the freezing point of our coolant on one side, and on the other side, it'll show us our boil over point. The higher, the better. That's what you're looking for. Now, where do you get the sample of this coolant? Not from the reservoir. The reservoir would not be a good indication of what you're looking for. I always recommend getting your sample from top of the radiator, from your radiator fill. But do remember, do not take the sample or open a radiator cap after the engine has been used or the engine is hot. Always wait for the coolant and all the fluids to cool down before you attempt doing this. Now, if we're already discussing additives, two very important additives that you do want to use are fuel and oil additives. I'm not going to mention any brands or any types because, again, certain people have certain preferences in different types of the country that have worked for them better in the past or in the future. Whatever the preference is, I'm not going to argue that. However, fuel additive is very important to make sure that your diesel does not congeal during cold temperatures. Oil additive is very important, again, to make sure that your oil does not congeal when it gets really cold outside. It ensures proper flow of fluids when they need it. And it's just good overall to keep maintenance of your oil and fuel. It also prevents any dirt that gets caught up in the fuel. It helps clean the system out when it runs. There's many benefits. I'm not going to go over all of them. You can certainly look them up yourself, but definitely use oil and fuel additives. Thank you for joining me for another video today. I love doing these videos. I hope you guys get to learn a lot. I certainly learn a lot from this. We're going to keep creating different videos, different things that we see and think that's very important for your generator maintenance and for you in general. If you have any suggestions, anything that you would like to know, let us know. We'll make a video about that as well. Thank you.